that was kind of part of being steadfast about getting this record out. Was it felt like we weren't a band yet until I had a piece of music I can hand you and go, this is our album.
Hello and welcome to Where the Living Room Used to Be, a podcast about Rhode Island's music scene. Hey everyone, it's James. My guest on this episode is Sean Carney, who you may know from bands such as the Jesse Minute, This Is a Movement, the New Jersey band The Scandals, and most recently Structure Sounds. In our conversation we talk about his introduction to punk music, his thought process and what he puts into his songwriting, as well as his experience recording at various studios over the years. Speaking of that, Structure Sounds just released their debut album, Light Up Your Sorrow, via Wiretap Records, and you can pick up a cassette or a vinyl copy over on their Bandcamp page right now. It's a fantastic record, and highly recommend you check that out. You get to learn a lot more about it in this episode. So please subscribe wherever you're listening right now, and make sure to follow Where the Living Room Used to Be on Instagram. I'll be posting some bonus mini episodes, as well as sharing some show flyers, photos, and more from Sean's time in music over the coming weeks.
You're originally from Florida, is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, I was born here, and then my family moved around a little bit. By the time I was 5, we ended up in Orlando, Florida. And I lived there from 5 to 15. So like all the teenage years, like finding music and all that stuff was there. And then right around sophomore year is when we moved back up here.
Okay. Like, is your family like anchored here in Rhode Island, or what brought you back to Rhode Island? Is it just the fact that no one ever leaves in a sense, or is it,
it always comes back.
Yeah.
My mother grew up in Cumberland and my dad grew up in Boston.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think their first couple married years were in Providence. And then obviously it was my dad's job, moved us around. And it's the same reason why he ended up back. Much to their chagrin.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of mentioned it. Obviously with your career in music, it all kind of surrounds punk in some shape or form, so to say. Florida is pretty well known for that. It kind of has a distinctive sound, and a lot of bands that have come out of there, I guess, I'm thinking more Gainesville, to be honest, but versus Orlando, but even still more currently, there's some good bands that are coming out of Orlando. Obviously this is now not, back in the day, but like how much did you think that affected you? Like, and when did you start listening to music? Was it during that time, like those formative years, like while you were there?
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of people our age, kind of the more mainstream stuff got me into this. Like Blink-182's Enema of the State was kind of my introduction into punk rock.
Yeah.
And I credit my cousin Mike. I used to spend summers in Rhode Island. So even throughout those teenage years, we'd be in Cumberland for a couple weeks every summer. Mm-hmm. And my cousin Mike took me to Newberry Comics, and he's like, all right, here's Dude Ranch. Like, this is the one you want to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, also here's Punkorama, and it was Punkorama 5.
Oh, okay.
Was the latest one.
Yeah.
And that really is what it, set me on a trajectory. I'm like, holy shit. Like almost every band on that compilation, I bought the full length, and that was the start, I'd say.
Yeah. Cool. But yeah, I mean, with regard to music, when did you start playing? And you have played bass in a lot of bands. You also play guitar now. What was your first instrument?
It was bass, which is still what I just always fall back on. Around that time I got into Blink. I bought a bass and started learning. And then my brother also bought a guitar around that same time. So we teamed up a lot on learning songs, and I used to download tabs, that sort of thing. So I used to buy CDs, and then I try and learn like a couple songs on each one.
Oh, okay. How did you find that? Like, was it a difficult thing for you? Did it seem like it came somewhat natural, or?
Yeah, I mean, thinking back, I remember I actually had one of those 90s Star Wars lightsabers.
Okay.
And I actually tied a string to it. And I listened to records and tried to picture where your fingers would go. And that was kind of when I was really thinking about, like, you know what, I want to try playing guitar or bass rather. And then when I finally got one, I got like that Hal Leonard book that everyone gets.
Okay.
Shows you how to tune it and like notes and whatnot. I took some lessons for about a year or so, but that didn't really take for me. Really, it was like playing the tabs, and then it got to a point where I could hear the notes and then know where your fingers would go. And and ever since then, I've just been a ear player. I don't know charts, anything like that, but if you play me something, I could likely play it back.
No, that's cool. Yeah, so I mean, you're let's kind of get back to like when you're in Rhode Island and you're like later teens. Is that when you started playing in bands, or what was the first group you were part of? And
first band was in Florida. Me and Paul, my brother, started a ska band.
Cool.
Also, like most people our age in punk rock, at least.
Yeah.
I feel like when the world is more carefree is when you gravitate to ska.
Yeah.
We were in a ska band called Brown Bag Escape, and we moved up here in 2004. And I met Kenny, who later became This Movement drummer.
Yeah.
And him and he joined up with me and Paul. We tried to kind of keep that band going. Just kind of played like high school shows, like that sort of thing.
Okay. Cool. What kind of ska was it? Like, were some of the bands that you were inspired by? Because there's so many different waves, so to say.
Yep,
But,
you bet. And it's back. Who knew?
Yeah. I've been waiting. I don't know what wave we're on, like the 6th wave or whatever. But like I've been waiting for it. So
for sure. Although I have no idea how modern ska bands can pay 7 people.
Oh yeah. Well, they're probably not getting paid, but
for sure.
Yeah.
Who is?
Yeah.
If I had to, I think it was Less Than Jake was probably the big influence.
Okay.
Also a Florida band.
Yeah. Killer. Those amazing bands. So, cool. Yeah. So how long did that band last up here in Rhode Island? Were you able to kind of get it off the ground up here? Or?
No, it was more of a high school thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was another band through my high school years called Mafia Machine, which, being Rhode Island, everyone knows everyone, especially musicians. Glenn went on to play in Follow Through. I don't know if you know that band.
Sounds familiar, but yeah.
And he was in Shorthanded Goal for a minute too.
Okay.
So I was in that band. Awful name.
Yeah.
And that was through high school. And then also in those years, I played in Good Luck Cadet with Kenny, the drummer Kenny, and my friend Ryan, who ended up being in This Movement.
Yeah.
And that band, did I say the name of it? That was Good Luck Cadet, kind of more like a Paramore-y sort of sound.
Okay.
And that probably took me out of my high school years and into like the Jesse Minute stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you talk more about that band and, what the sound of that was and some of the recordings that you've done with the Jesse Minute?
Absolutely. So I joined that band, I think 2008. And they were a little bit older than me. When I joined the band, I was 19. And they had, I think they had like an EP out at that time.
Okay.
But I always said that the Jesse Minute was like my version of college.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I was a kid. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to bring a 19-year-old into the band of like full-grown adults.
Okay. But, like how much older were they? Like, was it, or was it just like when you're 19 and someone that's like 25 is like ancient, or was it, they were like,
yeah, me and Missa and I were closer in age. The oldest member, I think, was in his 40s.
Okay.
Youngest, I think, was 28.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I guess when you're 19, there's like a decade gap, Yeah,
for sure. But I was hungry and I liked the songs and
it was great.
and I could figure out how to play them. They had an audition, the whole thing. But that felt like college, because that was the first time where like there was a practice routine. We'd practice twice a week. Tightness was important. And, you know, so many firsts were done with that band. The first tours I went on were with that band. The first records, we put out Do or Die, a full length, in 2009. And we did like 2 East Coast tours. But like I said, learned all the hard lessons about like what to do and not to do. And I'm forever grateful for them putting up with a literal teenager.
Yeah. Is that when you started? Like you were hitting the road pretty quickly with that band?
Yeah, we do a lot of regional stuff. I'd say at least twice a month there was like some out of state shows. Way too many Connecticut shows.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. And then just about once a year we do like a tour. We had some friends in Kentucky that would throw like a full. It's almost like they lived in like a cornfield. Very sweet people. Bands called the Vibrolas, wonderful humans. And so kind of the point of the tour was to get to this party. So
yeah, I got you.
So we'd book down East Coast, like through Virginia and out to Kentucky and then back.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. And where were you playing here in Rhode Island at that time? Like what were some of the venues that you guys frequented?
Well, definitely the living room. Actually, I think I have the flyers. My first show with them was at the living room, and that obviously became the office, which it was for a lot of us. Firehouse 13 we used to play a lot, and Jake's, which really dates us. I think if you remember Jake's.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Which then became the apartment.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is now. I drive by it, and
I think it's just a bar or something like that, or was it? Yeah, I don't know what it is actually now. But yeah.
There's Tiny Bar, which is right in front of it. I don't even know if Tiny Bar was a building back when Jake's was a thing. But,
you're right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and there was like the restaurant on the right side that was infrequently opened, you know. But,
it was Stanley Burger for a while.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, Stanley's. Yeah. It's like this place never seems like it's open, but yeah,
for sure. But that felt really special in the couple of years where that was really, really kicking. It really escapes me who was running the place, but I remember the bands for the night. There was always it almost seems like a trash can full of beer right next to the stage. And that was the other interesting thing about being in the Jesse Minute was I was underage. We played a lot of 21 plus places. Yeah. So I had to get really creative with my ID stories and why I didn't have one.
Wow. Okay.
For the most part, I got away with it. But some of the shows there were probably the most memorable.
I absolutely love that venue. You know, the bands that I played in, Sharks Come Cruising was one that was kind of our home base when it was running. And yeah, they just treated us super well.
Yeah.
It was Jake and Jackie. This is like his mom, I believe, that like ran it. But yeah, just amazing people and seemed to kind of get the way to support a band like what you're talking about of like supporting them with beer and just a lot of the shows seem to be free and just the bands would get like a cut of the bar and you know, like I'm sure that you guys did well. Sharks kind of fell into like the Celtic punk thing, so people would come out and they'd just drink a lot, so we would do well with that. But it was just a good way to structure stuff, and it was just a good time of just playing to pretty full rooms. So definitely miss that place.
Short end. I'm not giving a
But yeah, it seems like kind of shortly after that, you were just mentioning your other band, This Is the Movement. Must have started kind of around that as well. Can you talk about that band and some of the things that you did and the sound
Absolutely.
of them?
Yeah, and I think it was through that band that you and I became friends.
Yeah. I was playing in Cedros. We did a handful of shows together. Big fan of you guys. It was always fun to play with you.
Yeah, This Is a Movement was my high school friend Ryan and Kenny. Kind of obviously we were just hanging out. We were still friends, and it was just kind of a way to kind of bring my own tastes in. I had a bunch of songs from over the years, and the first record we did, Walk Away, we had 2 EPs that came out. Now that I look back, we really weren't around for that long, but that band led to so much more. But it definitely was a lot of fun. It's also where I met Jay Miggs, who played bass on that first EP, and still a homie to this day. And getting together, there was a lot of that band that felt like I was able to plant the flag when it came to like booking, coming up with the album art, for better or for worse. Our second album, when I put it back on streaming, I redid the artwork. So I'm like, this was horrible. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun. And musically, it's still something that I miss because it kind of had almost like a proggy element to it.
Around Ryan would kind of go off into some places, like it would have a lot of, like just layered guitars, and it was more than just like a straight ahead, punk band. So
for sure. Yeah. And I think that stands out from a lot of even what I've done after that, on just being its own thing. But no, we're heavily influenced from like Minus the Bear. I think the way I tried to sum it up was where the baby of Hot Water Music and Minus the Bear was the idea.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Because I was singing on it, and like I don't have the cleanest voice. So.
You have like the best voice, though. You have like the perfect punk voice, like you. So
thank you.
Yeah.
That was 10 years of Marlboros.
Yeah. Sorry you had to go through that, but yeah, you nail it. So, definitely. I mean, so that first EP, you did that with George Dussault at Galilee, correct?
Yep.
What was that experience working with him?
That was amazing. He, I believe we got in touch with him because my brother Paul is in the Down and Outs. Recorded most of their stuff with him, and that was another thing. I feel like every time you record, and I'm sure a lot of musicians agree, you learn something new, you pick up new stuff, you plan to be better than you were last time. And George was such a great musician with a really good ear.
Yeah.
So when it came to like throwing down a harmony, maybe you want a piano part, and it was something I missed for even years after, because I felt really comfortable laying down vocals with George. And also he's the type of guy that'll come out on the smoke break with you too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, the band was structured a little bit different on that one, right? It was you had 2 guitars. It was a 4-piece. And then the follow up to that that you're just kind of mentioning, the destruction of yourself and the world around you. It was the 3-piece with you and Kenny and Ryan. Definitely had to me had more noise, like kind of more aggression and experimentation with some of the stuff.
Yep.
Just from like kind of just subtle things, but like panning guitars between headphones and other things that you just kind of small elements that you can add to the sounds. And it's even just, it kind of came quick, from in between those 2 EPs, it was like a year, and it just seems like you guys, really came together. I mean, as you just mentioned right now, you guys have been friends for a long time, so that makes sense now hearing that. But, you just kind of really shot up with just what the band was. So can you talk a little bit more about that EP and, just kind of the path of that band?
Absolutely. And one thing I'll say, hindsight, it's the longest album title of all time.
Yeah,
I don't know what I was thinking. But
when you're trying to put it on like a cassette tape, you're like, wait, we got to use like 8-point font just to fit it on here or whatever, you know? Like,
you bet. I think Mark Clarkin actually trolled us in the Motif review, and he said, "I'm going to say the album title as many times as I can to meet the the quota,
the word count." You know, it's like, yeah, here you go, Mike, or whatever, whoever was running Motif at the time, you know, but just being like, yeah.
I loved that. Well, coming out of the first EP, we did a tour, tons of local shows, and around that time, Jay Miggs moved on, and he stayed in the family. He ended up being the down and out bass player and never went far. So it was easy enough to switch to bass because that's always been where I'm most comfortable. And I thought it really was great because for that batch of songs, we really focused in on the groove. Almost more like, and we can talk about it with the next records to come, but that band really, not to sound too jammy, but like a lot of it was just built around just finding grooves that worked. It started with parts. Ryan would come up with a cool tapping line, or Kenny would have a drum beat, and Kenny's a huge hip hop head. So a lot of what he was coming up with was very groove oriented. So we focused a lot on rhythm section things, and, and especially like that one did have a much darker tone. There were songs like 2012, which is like a very straight ahead punk song, but like songs like Sleep Well. And I'd say overall that EP still probably has my favorite bass lines that I've ever put together.
Your next band that you connected with after that was the Scandals, which was a band based out of New Jersey. So how did that come about?
So, part of this movement thing was we tried to do a lot of trade. We tried to really open it up into, who in New York is looking for a show in Rhode Island? Great. Can we come play your town? And the same thing opened up. I think Jared from the Scandals actually just cold MySpace emailed to date this even more. This is a movement being like, hey, do you have a show? And we booked them at 201 Club with the Jesse Minute, Mach 2. I ended up back in the Jesse Minute around later this movement days.
Oh, okay.
And it was like the Scandals. I have the flyer somewhere. It was the Scandals. This is a movement. Maybe She Rides, and
cool.
Jesse Minute. And we had a blast, and we really got along. And that summer, Jared hosted us. I think we had a show in Bayonne, and we just stayed friends. And he ran into a situation in 2012 where he booked a whole summer of shows, and the entire band quit.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So he put together he called some friends, and they did like half of that tour. They had like a run of shows with Guttermouth, and they made that happen. And the second half, do you know the band Burning Streets from Boston?
No.
Okay. And they're coming back for a show soon. Awesome band. They had like a 2-week tour with Burning Streets, and I think he was out of options.
Really?
Like, who do I know that plays bass? And he, and we were tour buds, but we weren't like super close, and he gave me a call and he's like, "Hey, I know this sounds weird. Is there any chance you want to get in the van next week and come on tour for 2 weeks?" And at the time, especially, was my focus was, on playing. And I didn't, I told him absolutely. So he sent me the songs. I learned the songs, and I got dropped off in Connecticut at our first show. And I thought the rest of the band was still there, because I was friendly with all of them. And it was like, I said hi to Jared, and he was like, "Hey, this is Anthony, the guitar player, and this is Paulie, the drummer. Hey, nice to meet you." And we had a set to play in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Sight unseen.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did, there was like 12 shows on that tour, and we got along amazing. I mean, Burning Streets, it kind of became like, as the band grew, that was still the tour we referenced on, just being melding as people and just really coming together as a group of guys. And finished the tour, thought, work done, went home. And it was probably about a couple weeks later, Jared sent me a text and was like, "Hey, we have a show at the Court Tavern." It was they were reopening the Court Tavern, and it was and Sam I Am was the headliner, and he's like, any chance you want to come down?" And to me, that was the you got the job moment. So
cool.
So that was it from there.
Yeah. But during that time, you were still based here in Rhode Island? Like you were just making those trips down?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I drove down for, the first couple shows, and then trying to get creative. I found out you could take a megabus out of Providence. Right into New York City. And then Jared lives in Bayonne, which is right across the water, Bayonne, New Jersey. And megabus into the city, you take a couple of trains, and the path drops you off 2 blocks from Jared's house. So for the next couple of years, that was the routine.
Wow. That's cool. That's dedication. You get familiar with the sidewalk. What is it? Outside of like Madison Square Garden? Is that one of the drop-off spots? Or I think that's when I've taken it down. It's just like, there's no like depot. It's just like, here's a street,
You bet. Yeah, I think it was
here's a street in like near Times Square or whatever. You're like, so.
Yep. I think it was 34th and 6th. There's actually a song on the new Structure Sounds album called 34th and 8th. And that song's about that time.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know the song, and then obviously put it together with your megabus travels, but that's cool,
It's kind of it goes into like, because there did reach a point where that got tedious, and like
I can imagine.
The song is about like everything New York was promised. Like you think about like the CBGB's days, or back when New York City, musically mostly, was like this magical place of endless possibilities, and now it's just like chain after chain after chain. And there is a hidden living room tidbit in the first verse.
Cool.
Which maybe when back in the day, do you remember across the street from the living room there was that Burger King? There was always a guy in the back corner reading a Bible.
No.
Okay, there was like one guy. Yeah, and it was like through my high school years. So you'd go into that Burger King.
Yeah.
And there'd just be one guy in the back reading a Bible every time I went in there.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And so the first line, which I kind of put in, I wish he could get his own song, but I had to put him in this one.
Yeah.
There's an old man clutching his Bible in the corner of a restaurant. So that line is actually talking about the living room.
Cool. I dig it. That's awesome. But yeah, with this band, commuting, it seems like they made your commute worth it. You got to open for some bands. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it right. Bad Religion. Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Are they important in any way? I don't know. Have they done anything for American music? I can't remember, but you got to do stuff with that. You did tours with Gaslight Anthem, correct? So yeah, I mean, how was that experience, and how did it kind of feel? Like, I mean, obviously you did the work, like, I mean, as a Rhode Islander, it's probably hard to get people from Warwick to drive to like Pawtucket to go to band practice, never mind, take multiple forms of transportation. But like, how did it feel to kind of have some of the stuff that you've obviously worked for, getting to do these? I mean, does it get any better than opening for Bad Religion? I don't know if it does, but like, we're getting to share like what is, maybe Fugazi. I don't know, like, like what like, so, you're like, hanging out with the Mount Rushmores of, the stuff. So like, can you just talk about that?
Totally. Yeah. Maybe if they put Operation Ivy back together.
Yeah.
That would trump it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so, and Jared was busy before I ever joined the band. And, but it seemed like once the four of us got going, it really started to pick up steam. And even from that Court Tavern show, opening for Sam I Am, it was like the response was just insane. And, I always love Rhode Island. It's my favorite. But New Jersey has a really good nurturing scene that seemed to really respond well to our band. And I was humbled because I was an out of towner. I felt like a bit of a fish out of water at some of these shows, but, quickly it became some of my best friends, were down there, and the bands down there were all supportive and great. Which is also something we have up here. But so the more touring we did, the more opportunities we got. And that's how we ended up going overseas for the first time in 2014. But we did get connected with Red Bull, who were doing like, they were a lot more involved in music, it seemed, in that time. And so we were part of the Sound Select, which they had a couple of different shows. There was one Gaslight Anthem show they did, and they did a 30 Days in LA series. So it was like for every day in November, there was like one headliner, and then they'd fly the opening bands out. And we were asked to do it, and we didn't know who the headliner was going to be, but it was the sort of deal where it's like, I'll take a plane ride. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's only a couple of weeks before they announced the lineup, and it was Bad Religion. And, people that know me know I'm an absolute Bad Religion nerd. I think Jesse Minute used to say that my screen name was BR Fan 69. I will annoy the hell out of you with my fandom of Bad Religion. So that was definitely like a tent pole thing, and it really did feel special. And the Gaslight thing, it's funny because Rhode Island, of course, is a small scene. Everyone knows each other, but New Jersey sometimes felt smaller. And the relationship we had with them was really special because I think when they were getting their start, there were bands like the Bouncing Souls, which kind of took Gaslight under their wing. And it felt that they were extending that same sort of courtesy with us.
That's cool.
Because they were incredibly kind. I mean, they took us out on a North American tour, and then brought us to Europe. I think that was in the same year. But incredibly cool, incredibly supportive, and a lot of our success really was around just the people in New Jersey that wanted to be involved.
No, that's cool. And with some of the recordings that you did with them, like, can you shout any of those things out? Like anything that was memorable of working with them?
Sure. Yeah, we did. I think the first thing was Time Machines, which is an LP we put together for our first European tour. And that was a mix of the Trench Knife EP, which came out. That was the record that came out right as I joined the band. Okay. And a set of 5 songs we recorded in New York. And the idea was it was a time machine because side A was before the Trench Knife EP and side B is after. So kind of like the band as it is now. And that was great. And then we had a couple of splits over the years. And then 2016, we did an EP with Brian Fallon from Gaslight Anthem, which kind of we recorded it in, I think, 2014. Excuse me. And that is probably my favorite thing we've done. It's probably recording wise that we were most happy with that one. And I think the songs are strong.
Yeah, no, it's a great release. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it was a great band. It really was just solid, rock solid, it's just, it was cool to see, the success that you all had. Are you guys still connected in a way, or has, what is currently going on with is it still a band, or is it, something that you guys are broken up, taking a hiatus, or?
Yeah, it's been, the last time we played was early 2019, and it's been on ice. Obviously, COVID didn't help.
Yeah.
But we actually just announced we're doing a show December 15th at Crossroads. And that should be really cool. And it's kind of a full circle thing because the Greg Palante is a photographer down there. One of our really good friends. He documented a lot of those old Court Tavern shows and some of the chaos that went on down there. And he's putting out a book with Mount Crushmore, which is Jared's label, kind of documenting 2012 to 2015 at the Court Tavern. And so to celebrate, we're going to do one night only at Crossroads in Garwood, New Jersey. Scandals are getting back together. Let Me Run's getting back together, and Burning Streets, who were the Boston band from that first tour. So
that's cool.
Stoked on that.
But yeah, kind of in between some of the stuff, you did a, self-released an acoustic EP that included some songs from the Scandals, some songs from This Is a Movement. Can you talk a little bit about that? Was that just something that you wanted to do to kind of just stay busy? Was it something that you'd have wanted to do of doing some more like solo acoustic music, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so throughout a lot of those Scandals years, I'd have a lot of buddies that wanted to come up this way, and so I could book them a show. But obviously, the band were down in New Jersey, so that's when I kind of had to, almost without a choice, had to become an acoustic player.
Okay, you're like, so I can do this show with you. I will,
yeah. And so, putting all that together, it's funny because I really love it. There's some amazing shows, and I really like that album. But that's part of why Structure Sounds is here, is because I like a band.
Yeah.
I need it loud, but no. So like that record, I put together. A friend of mine, Band Zero Holds, were going on tour, and they asked me to join. And I'm like, well, I need something for the table. So I actually recorded that in a bathroom in Taunton, Massachusetts, and a bathroom in Cumberland.
Cool.
Yeah. But I thought it came out pretty cool. It's a nice little document.
Yeah, definitely. Just some familiar songs, if you've, listened to the bands that you've been a part of. So it was just cool interpretations of that. The EP was called Structure Sounds. Is that, connected to the band Structure Sounds? Like, did you see that the band is now a continuation of that, or was it just a coincidence in a sense, or just, or how were those two connects, how are they together, or not together?
Well, I mean, naming bands is never easy.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch that we were playing with, and part of it was I took the songs we had prepared and I was looking through the lyrics. And Structure Sounds is also something that said in 34th and 8th, that exact same song about New York and the living room.
Yep.
And so I thought it was apropos for the EP. And then at the same time, I'm like, yeah, it kind of seems like the next step anyway. We're just, okay, here's Structure Sounds, the band.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And with the start of that band, it's got, some members of the Down and Outs as well, as you've mentioned earlier. Like, how did that come to be as a band? And, when did that actually start? When did you start playing loud again? So.
Well, Adam, I've known since I was in high school. He was Down and Out's first drummer. Great dude. We used to go see shows together and always stayed in touch. And over COVID, a lot of this band is because of the call outs, which is kind of like Jesse Minute Mach 2. And we've stayed close ever since those days. And it was over COVID. Obviously, all musicians had songs stockpiled. It was a good time to take a break and take stock of everything. And the call outs practice kind of close to my apartment. And I was talking with Mike, and he's like, from the call outs, and he's like, any night you just want to come down to hang out at practice, you're more than welcome. And so I did. I grabbed a 6-pack, threw a mask on, and went down, and actually brought a camping chair and sat in the corner.
Just so entertain me,
Exactly. Well, things were getting weird, and it was just I missed live music. And,
exactly.
And that was great. And Mike was like, anytime you want to come down here and make noise, you're more than welcome to. I can give you my keys. And so that kind of led me to be like, yeah, I got these songs. Let's see what we can do. And Adam was my first call, and he's a dad now, so he hasn't played in bands for a couple of years, but always a phenomenal drummer, hard hitter, plays lightning fast. One of the first things I had to make clear is I'm like, he more comes from the NoFX Fat Wreck world, and I'm like, Adam,
okay,
I hope you weren't planning on going fast for every song.
Yeah.
Mid-tempo.
Yeah.
For top 40, it'd still be fast. For Adam, it might as well be
doom rock or whatever,
Yeah, you bet.
What is this sludgy stuff you're making me play, Sean? You
bet. But so we started getting together and just playing and just here's some old ideas I had, here's some new ideas, and quickly it just was becoming a band. And Zach, who I've been friends with for years, he's played in bands like Heartsick Satellite. He was the sort of guy, the first time I saw him play, it might have been News Cafe, and so the minute he hit his first solo, I was like, I want that guy.
Nice.
I don't know how, I don't know what band, but I want that guy. And, quickly we became friends anyway, drinking buddies. And so when it was time to bring someone else in, he was the guy, and his influences are a little different. He's kind of more classic rock influenced, bluesier stuff.
Okay.
And, I think he really adds that extra flavor. And Rob, I was playing guitar, if I didn't already say that. And Adam knew Rob from way back in the day. And Rob, has been in touring bands for years. He was in Howl. Currently he's in Jamie Danger and the Dynamite, who are nice enough to share Rob with us. And so we had Zach in for a while. We brought Rob in, and then just done deal. And, once you get to know those guys, unlike the Scandals that didn't have any choice, we were just stuck in a van for 10 days and had to kind of learn and smell each other. It was like, we took some time, and like first show, you share a couple of beers and that's it. We're a band.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Like how quick what year was that? Like how quick did things come together? Just cause it seems like your pace of things is you're a doer, Sean. You're just like, I'm going to start this band. I'm going to record. I'm going to put out an album. And so.
Well, you saw the document I put together for you.
Yeah. No, thank you. Not a lot of people do that, but it was super helpful. But yes, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was psycho behavior.
No, it is absolutely not. Hopefully people like future guests listen to this and say that Sean has set the new benchmark for,
I want to say it was 2021 that Adam and I in earnest started putting songs together. And then I had to stop, and knowing Mike from the call outs and, just start paying for my own keys for their practice space. And then by the time we got Rob in and settled, I want to say early 22. 2022-ish.
Yeah, cool. And the album was recorded at No Boundaries Studios in North Kingstown. When did the album, I guess, become the target for this stuff? Like, did you just have a bunch of songs, or did you know that you wanted to come out? Even looking at your own career, you've done a lot of EPs, but with this new band, were you pretty focused on like you want to do an album and get into that particular studio and get this done? Or, what was that like for the recording? Like not just the recording process, but just like that as a goal for the band.
Sure. I mean, it came in two parts. We did start with 5 songs. Really loved the way it came out, and that's what we kind of were like. We already had the extra songs. I think we kind of put the finishing touches on 1 and 2 and said, like, you know what, let's just go for the full LP. And I'm really glad we did, because I wouldn't say it's like the way now with like waterfall release schedules and singles and all that stuff, which is great. But I mean, I know the world you and I come from is albums, which is like a cohesive statement, with packaging involved and vinyl and physical product. And so that felt good.
And yeah, you've done a great job with all of this stuff. So yeah, again, the new album, Structure Sounds, Light Up Your Sorrow, out October 20th. And, you've got vinyl, you've got cassettes. Everything just looks really good. It's like really well put together. And you're working with Wiretap Records, which is pretty awesome. Can you talk about the connection to that label, just because they've done some pretty amazing stuff, and it's a great, great group to be a part of, to be on that label. So, how did that come about, for this release?
There's probably my introduction to Wiretap was through Lost in Society, who are Asbury, New Jersey band. Great bunch of guys, and we Scandals did a lot of touring with them, and so from then I heard nothing but good things about Wiretap and another band called Divided Heaven that I moonlighted as their bass player for a little while.
Okay.
And so between Jeff and Lost in Society, when I was putting these songs together, I was looking for a home, and they had nothing but good things to say about Wiretap. And it's the sort of deal where you just send the songs off, and you don't know what to expect back. And we're a new band, right? So I mean, with all Rob's history and my history, at the end of the day, like, brand new band, no one's ever heard of us. There's no music out. And and that was kind of part of being steadfast about getting this record out, was it felt like we weren't a band yet until I had a piece of music I can hand you and go, this is our album. So I sent the songs off, and Wiretap, I think, was the first email I sent of just like, here's where I'd like to be. And Rob was incredibly receptive and sweet. And I'm glad we got to do this together.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, congrats on that. It's great. And yeah, I hope it leads to a lot more stuff for you. But, with regards to the album itself and the sounds you captured, can you talk about, recording at No Boundaries? And then, I'd love to cover some of the songs, kind of shout some of those out. But yeah, what was it like recording this album with this group and working? Because actually, to be honest, that's a new studio to me. I'm not too familiar with that name, so I'd love to learn a little bit more about it and kind of share their story as well. So
totally. Yeah, Chris Paquette runs No Boundaries, and he was in a band called Trophy Wives.
Okay.
I think he's a little bit younger than us. And we played a couple of shows with him back in the day. And I know his even older band used to play with the Down and Out. So we've rubbed elbows, and this is Rhode Island. Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
So I've heard some of the stuff that came out of his studio, and it sounded huge. And he's got a really modern technique, which I appreciate. And
like, what do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean by the modern technique? Versus, I mean, I guess you've worked with George, who's been doing this forever. Is it just he has just a different style to this stuff? Obviously, he has the pedigree to back it up. But what do you mean by?
Oh, of course,
what Chris was bringing?
To me, it's more like Chris grew up in our world, so he knows exactly what the drum sound.
Oh, okay,
is.
Yeah. I gotcha.
It's baked in, and the way he moves around the computer is amazing too. It almost makes your head. You kind of felt like you were on cocaine being in there.
It's just like mouses moving around.
Bang, bang. Yeah. You bet.
Cut this. We're going to drop this down here. We're going to move this over here. We're going to,
Yep. And I also took a lot of ownership over the sounds, and we did a lot of pre-production. In the practice space, finding out the tempos, getting everything down to a click. So I wouldn't recommend this fully because we definitely over demoed, but
okay.
I wanted all the harmonies to be locked in. I wanted to go in there, not waste a second, know exactly what we were going to do. Obviously a little bit of variation. Maybe this pedal will sound nice.
Yeah.
But, it's not the 70s. We don't have 2 years to sit around the barn.
Yeah.
Kicking the reverb tank to see what sound it would make. I kind of wanted to know exactly what we were going for. We went in there, and Chris was an amazing partner for that.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a super solid album. I really dig it. There's just... what kind of hit me is that it's, kind of overarching, with just that punk sound, even just kind of in your career, listen to every band that you've been a part of, and they all have their differences, but it's still, kind of fits into that punk realm in a sense. And, the album had that, but each song was still individual. It didn't sound like overkill in any way of there's another song that kind of sounded like 2 tracks before or whatever, that's fresh. The song that Zach wrote brings a different texture to it as well. And yeah, since you mentioned some of his influences, I can kind of hear that, because it just has a little bit of a different vibe to it. But totally works, totally fits, it's really interesting. I don't know if you hear it, but on New Horizons, it really kind of reminds me of Sam I Am. So it's cool that you've mentioned that, but I don't know how much of an influence that might have been for that particular song, but it just, your voice kind of comes across with that. It just has that feel, which in my view isn't really easy to do. Sam I Am is a pretty specific band, it's and it's easy to either miss the mark or just not, be able to kind of execute on that fully, or I don't know, or just so, but you guys, I'm not saying that this sounds like an exact Sam I Am song, but it just has that feel. It kind of has that certain thing that just not a lot of bands can do. So it's really, I really dig that one. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that particular song, or, kind of what went into the writing process of any of the tracks on the album.
Sure. New Horizons, sonically is probably I love the way the rhythm feels on that one. And I think my favorite part about New Horizon is like, I struggled a lot with the first verse because it's kind of low in the register. And I'm used to, for a decade plus, of just screaming. So, like it almost was, it almost was a little tapping into something different to really kind of hit that lower register. And part of that is getting into the second verse, which that layer on top, which is just an octave up. And I really kind of thought we could bring in almost a little bit of This Is a Movement in that second verse, because it does have like some spookier stuff. There's some hard panning going on.
Yeah.
And then the chorus, I think Sam I Am is a good pick. Thank you. And but I was mostly going for like a hot water music, big, loud chorus that people can sing along to. And what I love is that we've played that song a bunch in the last couple of months, and I think it only came out a couple of weeks ago as a single. And people at the shows were already picking up that chorus. It's easy. New Horizons. That's it.
Yeah.
3 words.
Yeah. That's what you want. You want those anthems, you know, especially for the style of music that you're creating. You just want to be a part of something, and you want to share things that people can be a part of, you know? So that's really great.
Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
Against the world, and we're all we got tonight. Who's coming? Brave! New horizons! Brave! Never knock me down! And if it's us against the world, and we're all we got tonight, who's coming?
Yeah, the song Andrea is another standout for me personally. Like the second that it came on, just instantly like kind of drawn to it, like just, you know, good, not like pop punk, but just like a good kind of like poppy, you know, song to it. You just released a video for this as well that I read you directed and edited. So I'd love to talk about that song just because it rules, number one, but also because it's, you know, you just have so much involvement with it as well. So, you know, what would you like to share about that one?
Sure. Well, the story of that song's a little bit embarrassing, but that's okay.
Well, there's just some mics in front of you, and this will go out, you know, on the internet or across the world. But
it's funny because I do also like name drop New Jersey in that song, and that the story of that song is well before I was ever in a New Jersey band. There was years and years ago on one of the first out of town weekends that the Jesse Minute played. We played a venue. I don't even remember the town. I don't think it was anywhere cool in New Jersey. I remember it was kind of out in the woods, and I met a girl, and it was like one of my first out of town gigs. And she was really sweet, and we got her number. We became MySpace friends, that sort of thing. And so it was kind of like, you know, almost like a young love sort of story. And so with that song, I kind of wanted to tap back into that feeling. And so the idea is like, where'd you go? You know, and so we had each other that night, all that fun stuff. But I think that song really spoke to the idea of something from like the Beatles or Blink-182 or Nirvana, which is just nursery rhymes, right? Simple melodies, make it catchy, and don't overthink it. Where like This Is a Movement was a lot of proggy, spacey, let's be crazier than the next song. Andre was like, let's just write something catchy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a great one. I'm sure people dig that one. And like, what are you most excited for people to hear when they buy this album?
I'm just excited to have an album out and to be able to play music, because there was a time recently where we didn't think we'd be able to do this again.
Yeah.
But I'm really stoked on Zach's song Setbacks. He came, this was around the second recording session where we did the second 5 songs, and he had that one in his back pocket, and it was amazing. And some of the layers we ended up putting on that one in the studio. It's also the hardest song to play.
Okay.
And so it's been fun to get that one dialed in. I'm really stoked on 2030. The whole outro of that song was a total callback to my love of Bad Religion. And we take 3 different melodies, cadences, and stack them on top of each other. Which mixing that one was a bitch to try and get everything
to make it actually work. Yeah.
Yep. We had battle octaves too on the bottom, guitar octaves, and I just had to let them go. They're still there. If you really listen, they're still there, but it was the sort of thing where I'm like, if those are more prominent, then we're losing the vocal. We got to bring that one back down.
Yeah.
But, just anyone that gives this a listen and gets something out of it, would mean the world to me. So I'm just excited for it to be out, and especially gearing up for a release. I did all the artwork, a lot of the marketing. I can't wait for that part to be over.
Yeah. Like once it is, out there
in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that kind of leads to, and like how to support people. Like you're doing this stuff, I ordered a cassette, you mailed it. Like it's coming from you. It's not from some like warehouse somewhere else, like, so for those that are listening, like check out this album. If you haven't already. And, if you enjoy it at all, like go to Structure Sounds Bandcamp, or go wherever you can pick this up and, buy a tape, buy a vinyl. Sean will ship it to you, and, with love, like, yeah, on time. You might get something else special, maybe a sticker that you wouldn't get, if you're just listening to it on Spotify, whatever. But yeah, it matters. You do have your LP release show Friday, November 3rd at dusk. So it's Structure Sounds with Salem Wolves, the Callouts, and KCUF from Boston. What can people expect with this show?
Yeah, I'm really stoked on that one. I'm sure, as you know, Dusk is an incredible venue here. Rick, Danielle, everyone that works there is great. And it's been my second home, probably second to the living room in terms of just where I can walk in and just, I'm home. And call outs, obviously, are family to me. I'm so stoked to have them. Salem Wolves are an amazing band who have been killing it in the city. And fuck backwards. I don't know if you realize that, because I didn't.
All right. I didn't know. No.
Yep. KCUF. Ken is a super old homie from Boston. He's played in tons of really great bands, and I can't wait to see them play. And so same deal. I'm so stoked that the record's going to be out. I can't wait to party, and it's going to be an awesome one.
Cool. Yeah. So check that out. Doors are at 8, shows at 9, 21 plus, $10. It's a good deal. So I like to say it's a bargain, so, well, Sean, this question I always ask to end my interviews. I was curious what you would say is your greatest musical accomplishment to this point.
This podcast.
Perfect. See, you just took your number one spot with giving me this, well put together list, even higher. And I'm going to go right to Bad Religion right now and say, hey, you guys might have thought that you were number one, but
oh, you're a professor.
Yeah, exactly. And they would respond. They actually wouldn't respond, but they'd be like, who are you? If they did. So, but next to me after this, after
Okay.
you know, the number 2 greatest accomplishment.
Greatest accomplishment. I've thought back, especially same thing with COVID, where you really had to kind of take stock of a lot of things in your life. Going to Europe was amazing, and maybe it's something I'll do again. But that first time going to Europe really just felt like I never thought, outside of maybe just being on vacation, that this is something I'd be able to do, and that was so amazing, getting to see new things every day. I mean, we played a fucking show in Poland, and like I don't think I'd ever go to Poland on vacation.
Yeah.
So to be able to see that and get to play a punk show, it was a tentpole moment.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to get to do that. And yeah, it's cool that you get to have that experience and, continue to have that with the music that you're creating, and, have done other tours and everything like that. So no, that's super wonderful. And yeah, thanks again for doing this, Sean. It was really cool to connect with you for this interview and kind of, reconnect, just, as people.
Oh, thank you, James.
You're seldom jaded, you talk real smooth. No hesitation, your lips right on cue.